Chapter 12. Meeting a formidable opponent at the Shani village arena. Poem. Heroes act with brilliance, yet why do slanderers so readily dismiss their virtues? Accumulated suspicion and delusion make it difficult to discern truth and distinguish right from wrong, beauty from ugliness. The pheasant's snare and the wild goose's demise are not enough to lament, for wealth has always been precarious. Shichong's golden valley remains a source of regret, and such servile greed is beyond measure. Tragedy is the misfortune of his fate, the inescapable threat of war. He raises his head and sighs, questioning only heaven. Why should he heed the pleas of the masses? This man, without money, is not proud, but even with great wealth, it becomes a burden. If a local becomes wealthy, he first earns the reputation of a miser, and then inevitably faces the scrutiny of officials and the envy of relatives and friends. If his baggage becomes too heavy, he risks robbery. Suspicious actions may lead to unexpected changes, and he fears misfortune amidst good fortune, even death. Before Qin Shubao arrived at Zhejialan, bandits were known to steal guests' belongings at night. The innkeeper, Zhang Qi, was a local headman who had gone to Lezhu with 11 men to report the theft and hadn't returned yet. The woman behind the counter instructed her men to bring luggage into the guest rooms and feed the horses. They lit lamps and prepared food and drink. It was already late at night. Zhang Qi had been punished with 10 strokes of the cane by Prefect Kai, who issued a warrant for his arrest, ordering the arrest of the bandits and sending the constables to Zhejialan to apprehend him. Knowing that bandits and innkeepers often worked together, Prefect Kai targeted him. Shubao, hearing the commotion from his room and recognizing the looters, didn't suspect anything. Now Zhang Qi entered the room and said to his wife, "The bandits got away with their loot, and the corrupt magistrate, oblivious to the hardships, has fallen on my shoulders. They're trying to catch me by chance, but where am I supposed to find them?" The woman nodded and led her husband into the room. The other constables followed behind, listening to the couple's conversation. Zhang Qi's wife said to her husband, "A tall man of unknown origin came to our house to loiter just now." Hearing this, the constables all came into the room, saying, "Wife, please don't avoid us, it's all our business." The woman said, "Please don't raise your voices, there is someone in my house." The others asked, "How do you know he's of unknown origin?" The woman said, "This man is dressed in new clothes, his bedding is neat, he carries weapons, and he rides a tall horse. If he said he was a military officer, he would have had subordinates and attendants. If he said he was a merchant, he would have had companions. Such a well-dressed man, lodging alone, is definitely of unknown origin." The others said, "That makes sense, let's check his horse first." One of the men lit a lamp and looked into the back stable, but it wasn't a horse from Lezhu, it seemed to be from out of town. They guessed he had been chased by the constables and lost his way. They asked, "Which room is he in now?" The woman pointed, "Right here." The others blew out all the lamps in the main hall, but a lamp remained in the room. They peered through a crack in the wall. Xu Bao had finished dinner and tidied up his belongings. He went out, locked the door, and opened his bedding to sleep. He found the mattress heavy and hard. Pressing it revealed something hard inside, making it impossible to sleep. He had to untie the thread and reach inside to pull it out. It turned out to be horseshoe-shaped silver ingots, flattened and squared with an iron hammer like bricks, piled on the table. Xu Bao was both surprised and delighted, thinking to himself, "Shan Xingxin, Shan Xingxin. No wonder you saved me and brought me back to Shandong, refusing to serve. It turns out you have such a generous gift. Even digging for it would take some effort. How could you have such a ready-made fortune?" He must have been afraid I would refuse, so he hid it in my bedding. Brother Shan is truly a thoughtful man. He wondered how much each ingot weighed, so he picked up each one and weighed it in his hand, trying to gauge its weight. But alas, walls have ears, and there are always people outside the window. Seeing his smug expression, the constables said to the others, He's a real bandit. If he were a customer buying goods, he would know the value of the money he brought. If he were a seller, the host would have a clear accounting system and the transaction would be transparent. There's never a case of someone not knowing the amount. Why is he weighing and balancing it in a restaurant? Isn't this silver stolen? He's definitely a bandit. As the saying goes, don't loosen the reins when binding a tiger. Let's go to the back and bring his horse over to hide it. The constables untied about 10 ropes from their waists and used them to make soft tripping ropes on the doorposts, pillars, and door frames outside his room, trying to trip him. They then chose one of the bravest men to go in first and lure him out. The shopkeeper, Zhang Qi, noticed the table full of silver and became suspicious. He thought, this stuff is impossible to verify. I'll go in first and steal a few pieces. What can he do about it? He said to the others, gentlemen, you don't know where my house is. How about I go in first and lure him out? The constables, knowing the gravity of the situation, readily agreed. We'll wait for you to go in. Zhang Qi drank 2 or 3 bowls of hot wine in one go, then kicked the door open. The bolt, used day and night, was extremely slippery from years of use. With a sudden burst of speed, he jumped out. Zhang Qi rushed into the room and proceeded to steal the silver. Uncle Bao, for these few taels of silver, panicked. If he had been sitting empty-handed in the room and someone had attacked, he could have defended himself, asked questions, and gotten the truth out of him. But because of the table full of silver, he didn't think anyone was there to take his money. He thought it was a robbery, and his anger flared, so he started fighting. With a single slap, Zhang Qi slammed against the wall with a loud thud, his brains splattering out. He cried out, "Ouch!" and died instantly. Truly, his delusions of gold found their way to the grave. Outside, shouts erupted. Bandits resist arrest and injure people. Zhang Qi's wife and the entire family wept bitterly. Xu Bao, inside the room, busied himself. Even if I accidentally killed someone, going to the city and the authorities would be exhausting. I haven't even announced my identity. I'll just abandon my baggage and run away. He started to walk out. Unexpectedly, the ground was covered with soft, slippery obstacles, and he stumbled. The bandits used grappling hooks to catch Qin Qiang, and 5 or 6 fire-end water clubs rose and fell. Xu Bao lay prone on the ground, protecting his head with his arms, enduring the blows. With a single punch, he broke all the short clubs. The bandits then added more short weapons, iron whips, crutches, meteor-shaped iron rulers, vajra hoops, and iron rui scepters, and clattered and slapped wildly. Truly, a tiger trapped in a deep pit can hardly spread its claws. A dragon caught in an iron net cannot soar into the sky. His limbs were all injured. The crowd stripped Xu Bao barefoot, bound him with ropes, and took out pen and ink to write down the bandit's confession. Xu Bao said, "Gentlemen, I am not a bandit. I am an official under Lord Liu of Qizhou Prefecture in Shandong. Last August, I submitted a petition to your prefecture to escort a military prisoner, and I have been ill here for a long time. A friend gave me gold to return home, but I did not know that you had mistaken me for a thief and caused my death. The truth will be clear when I see the officials." The crowd did not listen to his words. They picked up all the silver on the ground, tallied the stolen goods, led the horse to the gate, and carried Qin Qiang. Zhang Qi's wife had the villagers write a complaint, and together they left the soapberry forest for Lezhu City. This was Qin Qiang's second trip to Lezhu. Upon reaching the city gate at midnight, they shouted to the guards on the city wall, "The bandit leader from Zhejialan has been apprehended, but he resisted arrest and killed someone. Report this to the prefectural governor." The news spread like wildfire, and the drums were beaten to inform the governor. Prefect Kai immediately ordered the patrolling officials to open the city gate and bring the group of men into the prefectural office for questioning by the legal officer. The patrolling officials opened the city gate and let the group into the officer's office. This officer, named Hu Quan, was from Liaoxi. He was awakened from his dream, still drowsy from the alcohol. Under the lamplight, the constables recorded his statement. He heard him say, "We've seized over 400 taels of stolen silver, a horse and weapons, undoubtedly a bandit." They then called out, "Bandit, what's your name? Where are you from?" Shu Bao hurriedly replied, "Sir, I'm not a bandit, I'm Qin Qiang, a constable from Kiju. I arrived here in August and was granted permission to return by Lord Liu of this prefecture." The military advisor said, "You were granted permission in August, why are you still here? You must have another hideout nearby." Shu Bao said, "I've been delayed here due to illness." The military advisor asked, "Where did this silver come from?" Shu Bao replied, "It was a gift from a friend." The military advisor said, "Nonsense. Nowadays, people are stingy with even a penny. How could they have so much silver to give away? You, tomorrow, bring out the hideout and the names of the robbers and the victims. How could you resist arrest and kill Zhang Qi?" Shu Bao said, "On the evening of the 19th, I stayed at Zhang Qi's house when suddenly Zhang Qi led a group of men into my room. I suspected they were robbers and accidentally struck them, but he ran into the wall and died." Hu Kanjun said, "This is truly a case of resisting arrest and killing someone. Where is your letter?" Shu Bao said, "I've already asked a friend to send it back." Hu Kanjun said, "That's utter nonsense. Tell me everything, where you stayed when you submitted the letter and whose house you stayed at when you were sick. I'll call them all together to verify, and then I can clear your name." Shu Bao had no choice but to name Wang Zioer, Wei Xuancheng, Shan Xingxin, and others. Hu Kanjun, upon hearing this, made a detailed account, ordered the stolen goods to be counted, and had the bandits imprisoned. He planned to arrest the hideout and interrogate them again the next day. Poor Shu Bao was thrown into prison. Indeed. Caught in a trap out of nowhere, his mouth agape, he faced unimaginable calamity. The next day, military advisor who met with Prefect Kai and said, "Yesterday, Your Excellency released prisoners. Among them, the one who resisted arrest and killed someone is named Qin Qiang, claiming to be a military officer from Kiju, but without any official documents. He also carried a large sum of silver, a horse, and weapons, all of which are suspicious. As for Zhang Qi's death, it is true, but we haven't found any accomplices or associates, and after examining the body and injuries, we dare not report back." Prefect Kai said, "This matter is too troublesome. The relevant department should carefully investigate and interrogate him." Military advisor Hu returned to the office and used his warrant to arrest Wang Zioer, Wei Xuancheng, Shan Xingxin, and their group. Wang Zioer was from the prefecture. He had asked a local official to come and burn incense, claiming he was a government official and knew nothing about the matter, and then left. Wei Xuancheng was accused by the officials of being a bandit who lodged in temples and monasteries, and through various means, they extorted a large sum of silver from him. Xingzin spent a few taels of silver, then quickly gathered 1,000 taels, and with his entourage, went to the front of the mansion. He had a place to stay, and ordered his men to invite Old Man Tong and Old Man Jin from the mansion. These two were Tong Huan, courtesy name Pijai, and Jin Jia, courtesy name Guojun. Both were skilled thieves in the mansion and close friends of Xingzin. When Xingzin saw Jin and Tong arrive, he gave them the 1,000 taels of silver to use as they pleased. After settling in, the two went to see Shu Bao in prison and spoke with him. Hu, the military advisor, was punished, and Wei Xuancheng was spared thanks to Xingzin's intervention. When they went to the soapberry forest to examine the corpse, Jin and Tong bribed the coroner to make it appear as if Zhang Qi had been struck by bricks and stones at the scene of the fatal injury. Jin and Tong also handled the arrests smoothly, avoiding a retrial and claiming the silver was a gift from their friends, Li Mi, the Duke of Pushin, and Wang Badeng, thus avoiding accusations of theft. Without resorting to force or coercion, the court issued a verdict. The investigation revealed that Qin Qiang, on official business in Kiju, went a Leju. Although the official document was sent back, his whereabouts were clearly documented, so he could not be suspected of theft. Zhang Qi, suspecting theft due to the large amount of gold, led a group to ambush him. In the chaos, Qin Qiang forcefully pushed and beat Zhang Qi, causing him to hit his head against a wall and die. Is this not excessively harsh, considering it intentional homicide? It should be considered accidental injury, with no reduction in punishment. A single exile is sufficient. The silver was supposedly a gift from Li Mi and Wang Badeng, and should have been returned without waiting for Li Mi and others to present it to the authorities. Although it was accidental injury, it doesn't warrant exile. This shows the difference in laws across dynasties. Since it wasn't stolen goods, it should have been returned, yet it was stored in the treasury. This is the government's attempt to curry favor and enrich their superiors. Arresting someone and falsely accusing them of theft should also be punished, but the blame is being placed on the already deceased Zhang Qi. During the trial, military advisor Hu spoke beforehand, and Governor Kai had connections, so it was merely a draft decision. Now that Xiubao had been spared, how dare he ask for money for saddles, horses, and equipment? Let him keep his money in the treasury. They asked a military officer under the governor of Yuzhou, and he was ordered to be escorted away. Shengxin, fearing Xiubao would have no companions on his journey, used some money from the military office to entrust Tang Pizhai and Jin Guojun to escort him. The documents were signed, and Tang Huan and Jin Jia were listed. The officers received the warrant, and Xiubao was taken out of the mansion gate in chains. His shackles were removed, and he went with Shengxin to thank him for saving his life. Shengxin said, "It is I who have caused you trouble, brother. There is no need for thanks." Xiubao replied, "It is my bad luck that has led to this misfortune. If it weren't for your steadfastness, brother, I would already be a ghost in prison." Shengxin then arranged for Pizhai and Guojun to settle down and invited Xiubao to Erxianzhuang. Xiubao bathed and changed into a set of simple clothes. Shengxin also prepared 100 taels of silver for Xiubao's travel expenses, prepared a farewell feast, and took his leave. Before parting, Shengxin took out a letter and said, "Tang Pizhai, Xiubao has many friends in Shandong and Henan. Even those he hasn't met, he'll still entertain them out of admiration. Yuzhou is in Hebei, but Xiubao has no friends there. He fears he'll be alone and without connections. Take this letter to a village called Shani in Zhuozhan. There's a famous hero there named Zhang Gongjin, a sworn brother of mine. Ask him to introduce you to Xiubao in Yuzhou and convey his message to your friends in the government so you can see him in person." Pizhai replied, "I understand." He took his leave of Shengxin, and the three set off. It was truly a beautiful spring day, with willows drooping like golden threads through the long embankment. The three talked about their skills and their work in the government, showing mutual respect and affection. Before they knew it, several days had passed and they arrived in Zhuozhan. At the hour of 9:11 a.m., they reached Shani village. There were 400 or 500 households along the street. The second house at the end of the street was a restaurant. Xiubao stopped and said, "Brother, this is Shani village. We need to visit a friend Zhang to deliver a letter. Since we're meeting a friend for the first time and are hungry, it's not appropriate to go for a meal right away. As the saying goes, it's better to stay at an inn than to visit relatives. Let's go to an inn, have a light meal, and then deliver the letter." Tong and Jin said, "Brother Qin is right." The three of them went into the inn, and the waiter led them to their seats, ordered tea and soup, and set out food and drinks. After finishing their meal, Xiubao, along with Guojun and Pizhai, went outside the shop to watch. They saw countless young men on the street, each wielding a short stick, marching towards them. Amidst the drums and music of the Central Army, a man on horseback, resembling a spirit official, wore a turban with a swastika pattern, 2 gold flowers, and an official robe with a colorful sash. Behind him, many armed men with swords and spears came to greet them. Xiubao asked the shopkeeper, "Who is this hero who is welcoming us?" The owner replied, "Our Shani village is welcoming the Grand Duke of Jupiter today." Xiubao said. Why such a fierce name? The shopkeeper explained. This gentleman's surname is Shi, his given name is Dunai. He was originally a barbarian general who lost his way in the Central Plains. Recently, he sought employment under Lord Luo of Yuzhou and was appointed a flag-bearer. Lord Luo selected Master Shi as a talent, unaware of his true abilities, and sent him to our Shani village to compete in a 3-month tournament. After 3 months without a match, he was officially appointed a flag-bearer. This flag was erected in the winter of last year, and today is the Kingaming Festival. Initially, there were several. There are heroes nearby, and valiant warriors from afar. We fought dozens of rounds. Not only have we not won against them, but we've never even seen one fall to the ground. Now we're being welcomed to the arena again. Xiubao asked, Has the fight started today? The innkeeper replied, They'll fight for one more day, but not tomorrow. Xiubao asked, Can we go watch? The innkeeper laughed, Sir, don't even mention watching. If you're capable, you can go fight yourself. Xiubao said, Innkeeper, please take our luggage. We'll pay you back for our meal after watching the fight. He then told Pei Zhai and Gu Jun to carefully tuck the travel expenses into their waistbands. The 3 men left the shop, followed by a continuous stream of people eager to watch the martial arts contest. At the end of North Street stood a Lingyuan temple. In front of the temple were several acres of wasteland, where a martial arts platform had been built, 9 feet high and 24 feet in circumference. Thousands of people surrounded the platform, vying to watch. Shidanai played music and led the men onto the platform. The 3 brothers, Xiubao and his brothers, went in close together, reaching the horsehead section of the platform to see if anyone was going up to fight. No one was there yet. To the left of the horsehead section were 2 vermilion railings, each with a square corner. Inside the railings was a cabinet, with a balance scale and a supporting frame. Several young men were tending the cabinet. The 3 men reached the railing, and Xiubao asked, Gentlemen, a martial arts arena is a place for contests, so what's the purpose of this railing and scales? One of them replied, Friend, you don't know our master, she is a gambler. Xiubao said, So it's for profit. The man said, You don't know, there was no such intention at the beginning. When the arena was erected, a thunderous roar resounded throughout the land, heard from all corners of the world. Heroes and warriors gathered below. Our master, she is cautious, fearing that someone might injure someone without proof. Anyone who goes up to fight must write a confession. Those who wish to go up must state their name, hometown, and age, and make an oath. The confession was to be executed without question. However, no 2 confessions could be identical. One person wanted to write one. Everyone was eager to be first, and no one wanted to fall behind. Because of this confession, several days passed without clearing their name. Therefore, Master Shi said not to write confessions anymore, but to set up this counter and balance where wealth and life were linked. Those who were interested in such things all came to the counter to pay silver. Uncle Bao asked, How much? The man said, Not much. Each person pays 5 taels of silver. No matter how many people, once the silver is paid, Master Shi will give the order to come up and beat them. One person goes up first. The second hero catches up and drags them down. Those dragged down cannot go up, and that's the third. One of them went up. On the spot, anyone with the skill could punch me, Master Shi, and win 50 taels of silver 1 against 10, a kick for 100 taels, a fall for 150 taels, or buy a beating to cripple him, and he could go home and complain about his fate. Initially, 20 or 30 people went up, but Master Shi slammed them all down. Within a month, he won 1,000 taels of silver. However, those with silver but lacking skill dared not come to the counter. Those with skill but no silver couldn't fight. Therefore, in the following 2 months, very few people went up to fight. Today, to complete the task, I have set up the counter and scales here. I wonder if any heroes who have completed the task will come. Xiubao laughed at Pei Zhai and Gu Jun. That's something only heroes do. Pei Zhai then urged Xiubao, Brother, go up. After the official business is over, you can make a fortune along the way. We know your abilities, you can easily get 150 taels. It would be good to have it in the Yuzhou government office. Xu Bao said. Brother, fate is not what it seems. My luck is bad. Xingzin gave me a few taels of silver, but I had no fortune to enjoy it. I got into trouble at Zayajigalan and suffered many setbacks in Luzhu. Here, you want to beat people up and win silver. Let alone go up, I can only watch. Pei Zhai was about to go up when he said, Don't miss this opportunity. Let me go up and have some fun. Tang Pizhai and Jin Guojun were no nobodies. They were two renowned heroes serving in the Luzhu government. Xubao hadn't known them for long, but due to official troubles, Xingzin had introduced them, allowing them to meet. Xubao had never actually fought with them. Seeing that Tang Pizhai was eager to go up and perform, Xubao flattered him, saying, Brother, it's just for fun. If you want to go up, I'll give you 5 taels of silver. Xubao deposited the silver in the counter, and Tang Pizhai went up to the arena. The arena's head was 9 feet high, with 18 tiers. When he reached the middle, the thousands of onlookers cheered, making Tang Pizhai's bones go weak. These thousands of people had been cheering for him because no one had gone up for a long time, and now someone was performing a consummate act. They didn't know he was a nobody, and being terrified, he couldn't turn back, so he had no choice but to continue. He then ascended, but his demeanor had changed drastically. He adopted a fierce stance, clenching his teeth, glaring angrily, fists clenched, sleeves ripped open, strode forward with exaggerated movements. The onlookers below exclaimed, A true hero has gone for it. Meanwhile, Shidanai, having spent 3 months on the arena without encountering a worthy opponent, acted as if no one else was there. Seeing the approaching figure's unsteady footsteps, yet not within his grasp, he made a grand entrance, adopting a defensive posture, waiting for the newcomer to enter. From the top, middle, and bottom, none could escape his grasp. When Tang Huan reached the arena, he saw Shidanai's imposing figure and found him too large to subdue. He leaped lightly, delivering a powerful double kick to Tang Huan's face. Shidanai countered with a 10,000 enemies pushing demon stance, seizing Tang Huan's feet and landing him on the arena. Tang Huan stood still, his left hand striking the groin, his right hand assuming a high-headed horse stance, ready to subdue Shidanai. Shidanai, like a weaver girl weaving, slipped behind Tang Huan from her right side, grabbed her clothes and belt, and shouted, I won't hit you anymore, just throw me down. He pushed off the platform. Those watching below scrambled to their feet, tumbling like swallows carrying mud, landing with a thud, their faces covered in dust. Tang Pizhai was utterly ashamed. Qin Xubao, in a fit of rage, shouted, Let me go up, and started to walk forward. The shopkeeper stopped him, saying, Going up requires exchanging the silver. The previous 5 taels have already been lost. Xubao had no time to exchange it, so he took a large ingot of silver, threw it on the counter, and said, This silver is all here. I'll settle it with you after I win it. Without even climbing onto the platform from his horse, he leaped 9 feet high from the ground and jumped onto the platform, heading straight for Shidanai. Shidanai parried Qin Qiang's attacks and he unleashed a flurry of punches, then launched a double flying kick. One lunged at the ribs and chest, the other at the heart. One opened his mouth like a lion, the other leaped like a carp. One pounced like a hungry tiger, the other a ferocious dragon. One hastily raised his guanian palm, the other a swift arhat kick. Long fist stances are naturally fierce, but how can they compare to the devastating power of this short-range fight? It didn't look like 2 people fighting, but rather like 2 tigers wrestling for food, rolling around on the stage. Even the most beautiful peony needs green leaves to support it. Could it be that Shidanai fought in the Shani village for 3 months without a match, becoming this lone hero? A tiger on a mountain, and it's only thanks to Zhang Gongjin of Shani village as his host that Xubao, who had sent him a letter, has yet to meet him. At this time, Zhang Gongjin was at the Lingyuan temple, instructing the cooks to prepare a feast to celebrate. Then they invited Bai Xiandao, a local hero. The two were drinking buddies, and without waiting for the feast to begin, they first brought out some fruits and vegetables in the main hall and took a jar of cold wine to taste. Suddenly, two young men rushed in, saying, "Gentlemen, Master Shi's official star hasn't appeared yet." Zhang Gongjin said, "Today is a perfect occasion. Why are you saying this?" The men replied, "On the arena, Master Shi first threw someone down and won. Then a big man jumped up and they fought for 30 or 40 rounds without a clear winner. We watched from below the arena, and Master Shi's hands and feet were all in disarray. He couldn't beat this man." Zhang Gongjin said, "Is that so? It's a perfect occasion, and he's already met such a worthy opponent." He called out, "Brother Bai, let's not drink yet, let's go see." They left the temple, parted the crowd, and looked up at the arena where the fight was still going on. A fierce and ominous battle, obscuring the sky and covering the earth. The Black Tiger's golden hammer descended from below. The slanted steps and ghostly movements kept the gods busy. A slashing palm and a hook strike, a short, sharp blow to the groin. Seeing the fierce fighting, Zhang Gongjin hesitated to join the fray and asked the onlookers, "Which road did this hero come from?" Those who had been watching for a while pointed to Tong Pijai and Jin Guojun, saying, "The one with some grime in his temples was the first to fall. The one dressed neatly didn't go up to fight. Ask these two and you'll know who's fighting up there." Zhang Gongjin, being the local host, was cheerful and amiable. He raised his hand to Pijai and asked, "Friend, who's fighting up there?" Tong Pijai, annoyed, brushed his face clean, though some grime remained in his temples. Seeing that Xiubao had won, he answered irritably, "Friend, why are you meddling in his business? Let him fight." Gongjin said, "All men are brothers under heaven. I'm afraid it's difficult to persuade someone who is a fellow traveler." Jin Guojun, however, was not angry with him. He did not go up to fight, but stepped forward to parry, saying, "Friend, we are not people without background. If you want to fight, let's fight one-on-one. Don't talk about fighting. Even if you lose, we still know a few people in Shani village." Gongjin asked, "Brother, do you know anyone from this area?" Guojun said, "Brother Shan from Erxianzhuang in Lezhou has a letter to Brother Zhang in Shani village. I haven't been to his village yet to deliver the letter." Gongjin laughed loudly. Bai Xian pointed at Gongjin and said, "This is Brother Zhang." Guojun said, "So it's Brother Zhang, I'm sorry." Gongjin asked, "Who are you, brother?" Guojun said, "I am Jin Jia and this is Tong Huan." Gongjin said, "So you are heroes from Lezhou. Who is fighting up there?" Guojun said, "This is Brother Qin Xiubao from Lecheng, Shandong." Zhang Gongjin waved his hand and shouted, "Brother Shi, don't fight. This is Qin Xiubao, whom I've long admired." Shi Danai and Xiubao stopped their punches. Zhang Gongjin took Tong Pijai's arm, and Bai Xiandao dragged Jin Guojun along. The four of them laughed and went up onto the stage. The six friends met and apologized to each other. Gongjin said, "Those watching the fight, please disperse. This isn't some outsider coming to challenge us. It's a friend of mine visiting a wise man." He ordered his men to move the counter to the Lingyuan temple. He invited Xiubao down from the stage and into the Lingyuan temple, where they laid out a prayer mat, bowed to each other, and the drummers played music to set up the table. Gongjin raised his hand from the table and asked, "Where is your luggage?" Xiubao replied, "In the second shop on the street." Gongjin ordered his men to bring Qin's luggage and returned the 2 silver ingots in the counter to Xiubao. Xiubao opened the package during the banquet, took out Xingzin's letter of recommendation, and handed it to Gongjin to open and read. He said, "Ah, so you're in trouble in Yuzhou, brother. No worries, it's all on my shoulders. This banquet is just a small gathering in the suburbs to congratulate Brother Shi. Please, sir, come to my humble abode for a visit." The 6 men quickly drank a few cups, and before they knew it, dusk had fallen. Gongjin invited his friends to his abode. In the main hall, candles were lit and incense was burned. He invited Xiubao and his friends to bow 8 times as a sign of kinship. After the bows, wine was served, and they drank until dawn. Shidanai also needed to go to the commander's residence to report, and Bai Xiandao wanted to accompany him. Zhang Gongjin prepared 6 horsemen and more than 10 attendants, and together they headed to Yuzhou to submit their report. What happens next? Let's find out in the next chapter.